When Meghan Markle quietly boarded a flight from California to London in mid-July, she wasn't traveling for a peaceful reunion with King Charles or Prince William, but rather because she was attempting to save a crumbling brand from an absolute terrifying collapse. Crossing 5,000 miles of ocean, this journey was a high-stakes gamble born of sheer, unadulterated desperation. And to see why Meghan and Harry were forced into this impossible corner, you only need to look at the devastating numbers. Their $100 million Netflix partnership, once hailed as the ultimate triumph, had hit absolute rock bottom, with their flagship offering With Love, Meghan, crashing to an embarrassing number 1217 on global viewership charts. Combined with the public collapse of their Spotify deal and scathing reviews, Meghan knew their entire commercial enterprise was in total freefall, operating under a cloud of pure panic. Behind the closed doors of their Montecito estate, the atmosphere was reportedly one of red alert, where advisors were brutally blunt, with one senior strategist overheard saying during an emergency meeting that the brand was exhausted, that they had used up every story, every grievance, and every piece of footage, and that if they didn't find a new anchor, the revenue streams would dry up by the end of the year. Meghan Markle reportedly took this news with a sense of profound shock, realizing that the ultimate lifeboat they desperately needed was still 3 years away, specifically the year 2027, marking the 30-year anniversary of the passing of Princess Diana. To the Montecito team, this anniversary is not just a moment of quiet remembrance, but the ultimate commercial lifeline. Yet to make a documentary about Diana that actually sells, they need much more than old photos. They need what the industry chillingly calls the blessing. And so, despite the Home Office's firm refusal to provide royal-level security, Meghan reportedly made the snap decision to bring Harry and their 2 children back to British soil. A hasty flight that wasn't about seeking a peaceful reconciliation or having tea with King Charles III at all. Behind the scenes, the whispers are getting louder, revealing that the most expensive commodity in the Sussex arsenal is a legacy they don't fully control yet, meaning the true target of this trip was Althorp, the final resting place of Princess Diana. Sources suggest that Meghan's goal was a direct private visit to the gravesite to seek a symbolic blessing for their upcoming projects, but more importantly, it was about securing access to private archival resources that only the Spencer family can provide, going to shocking lengths by bypassing the palace entirely to deal with the Spencer legacy directly. An insider recounted a moment where Meghan allegedly told her inner circle that they don't need the palace's permission to honor a mother's memory and must go straight to the source where the real story lives, transforming this into a fierce battle for the right to narrate the history of the most famous woman in the world. Rewinding the clock back to a moment that scorched the collective memory of the world, we find ourselves at Westminster Abbey on September 6, 1997, where 2 billion viewers watched through their screens, hushed in a collective grief that felt almost physical. In that cathedral of history, Charles Spencer, the 9th Earl Spencer, stood before the coffin of his sister and delivered a eulogy that felt like a lightning strike against the establishment, speaking of a girl who was the most hunted person of the modern age and vowing that her blood family would protect her sons. But beneath that aristocratic veneer of defiance lies a psychological burden that few can truly comprehend, forcing us to travel even further back to a quiet room in the Spencer estate in September 1995 for a fateful meeting that changed royal history forever. For 30 years, Charles Spencer has maintained a silence so profound it serves as a fortress, constructed because it was in that room in 1995 that the Earl was reportedly presented with forged bank statements by a journalist named Martin Bashir, documents alleging Diana's staff were being paid to spy on her that unlocked the door to the infamous Panorama interview. The month is July 2026, and the air at Althorp, the ancestral home of the Spencer family, is usually thick with the scent of ancient history and quiet reverence, but after a journey of 5,000 miles, the Sussexes finally arrived at the threshold of the one place they believed would provide the ultimate validation for their commercial future. They didn't just come with a private intention to grieve, as they reportedly brought a detailed production proposal from Netflix with demands that were utterly staggering, requesting full filming rights on the sacred island where Princess Diana is buried and, most controversially, unprecedented access to her private diaries from the 1980s. Imagine Charles Spencer, the 9th Earl, sitting in his library, surrounded by the weight of his family's legacy, reading through these cold clinical requirements, only for the reaction to be an immediate, sharp, and absolute no, delivered through that single devastating word. Behind the scenes, the Earl's refusal was reportedly final, having been overheard telling a senior member of the estate staff in a tone of weary but firm resolution that this is a family home and a place of rest, not a soundstage for a digital subscription service, because some things are simply not for sale regardless of the bloodline of the person asking. Notably, the rejection went even further than a simple no to the cameras, with rumors swirling that the Earl had issued a total ban on any member of the Sussex film crew even stepping foot on the Althorp grounds, leaving Meghan, who had arrived expecting a historic reconciliatory moment for a global audience, completely neutralized and practically invisible to the media. There were 0 photographs of a joint meeting and 0 official statements of support, meaning a 5,000-mile journey intended to be a masterstroke of PR had turned into a total communication blackout. Instead of a press release or a glossy joint portrait, Charles Spencer chose to communicate on his own terms while the world's media buzzed with news of the Sussexes' arrival, posting a single grainy photograph on social media of a nostalgic small pony from 1972 that Diana had loved as a child. It was a masterpiece of subtle aristocratic counterattack, sending a clear message to the world that he is the true keeper of the flame who doesn't need high-definition cameras or multi-million-dollar deals to honor his sister, holding the real history and quiet memories that cannot be monetized. For Meghan, the realization must have been chilling after traveling across the world to claim a legacy, only to find that the man who guards it had rendered her presence entirely irrelevant to the narrative as they prepared to leave the gates of Althorp with 0 footage, 0 diary entries, and 0 blessing. To truly understand the failure of the Sussex mission to Althorp, one must first understand the weight of 500 years of history, because Althorp is not just a scenic backdrop or filming location, but a fortress of tradition sheltering 19 generations of the Spencer family under Tudor-era rules that are utterly immune to modern Hollywood branding. The Spencers have an ancestral allergy to what they call the commercialization of the bloodline, viewing Diana's memory as a family trust rather than a narrative to be shared with a global audience. The reality is cold and mathematically precise, because despite her middle name, Lilibet Diana, and her brother Archie, they possess 0% legal authority or claim over Althorp or the final resting place of their grandmother, holding names that act merely as a tribute rather than a title to the land. Althorp is destined for one person and one person only, Louis Spencer, the Viscount Althorp, who as the male heir under the law of primogeniture will carry the keys to 19 generations of history while the Sussex children remain legally outsiders. Behind the scenes, the Montecito team reportedly spent months looking for a legal loophole, with high-priced London advisors attempting to find a script where the children could be granted a special status, permanent residency rights, or a formal role in the management of the Diana Memorial to justify their 2027 media projects. They hit an unbreakable wall when a senior legal consultant for the Spencer estate was reportedly heard saying during a private briefing that this is not a business you can buy into, but a bloodline defined by 500 years of law where you cannot invent a role for children who live 5,000 miles away and have no standing in the line of succession. This is the ultimate irony of the Sussex strategy, having spent years crafting a brand centered on the legacy of Princess Diana while neglecting the sanctity of the family seat, ensuring that the wall will never open for a Netflix crew or be bypassed by a PR campaign. As the sun sets over the Althorp estate, it illuminates a reality that the Sussexes simply cannot strip their way out of, proving that while they have the name and the jewelry, they do not have the power, leaving the silence of 19 generations as the loudest answer they have ever received. After the funeral in 1997, the physical bridge leading to the island at Althorp was dismantled as a symbolic, literal disconnection intended to signal that the people's princess was finally out of reach of cameras, flashbulbs, and relentless public demands.